Emergency vehicles. Probably just reflections from your headlights, the old man said. The fog can play tricks on your eyes. But Mark had the distinct impression that the old man had seen exactly what he'd seen, and knew exactly what it meant. They drove in silence for several minutes, the only sounds the engines laboring and the whisper of tires on asphalt. The road seemed to stretch on forever, each curve revealing only more fog, more climbing highway. Mark found himself checking the odometer compulsively, but the numbers never seemed to change in any meaningful way. It was like being trapped in a loop, forever climbing toward a summit that never arrived. How far to the pass, he asked. Not far now, the old man replied. We're almost there. But Mark had been driving this road for what felt like hours, and they seemed no closer to the top than when they'd started. The fog, if anything, was getting thicker. The world beyond the headlights had shrunk to nothing. I need to call the hospital, Mark said. Check on Danny's condition. He reached for his phone, but when he tried to unlock it, the screen remained black. The device felt strange in his hands. Too light, too insubstantial, like a prop from a movie set. No signal up here, the old man said. These mountains interfere with cellular towers. You'll be able to call once we reach the valley. Mark set the phone aside, but something nagged at him. He remembered having signal earlier and making calls during the drive from Phoenix. When had that changed? And why couldn't he remember the specific details of those conversations? The nurse who called me, he said slowly. What was her name? The old man looked at him with interest. I don't know. What was her name? Mark tried to remember. He could hear her voice clearly, professional and clinical, but the name escaped him. Brenda something. Brenda. He searched his memory, but it was like grasping at smoke. Doesn't matter. She said Danny was in critical condition. That's what matters. Yes, the old man agreed. That's what matters. They continued their climb through the fog, and Mark found himself thinking about Danny as a child. The boy had been fearless, always climbing trees that were too tall, riding his bicycle too fast down steep hills. Carol used to worry constantly, but Mark had encouraged it. Boys need to take risks, he'd argued. It's how they learn. Now he wondered if he'd been wrong, if all those small encouragements toward recklessness had somehow led to this moment. His son broken and bleeding in a hospital bed, his father racing through the night to reach him. Guilt is a heavy burden, the old man said, as if reading his thoughts. I'm not, Mark began, then stopped. He was guilty. Guilty of every absence, every missed moment, every time he'd chosen to work over family. I should have been a better father. Maybe. But would it have changed anything? Would Danny have made different choices if you'd been more present? Mark considered this. Danny had always been independent, even as a child, strong-willed and determined to do things his own way. Probably not. Then why torment yourself with what-ifs? Because that's what parents do, Mark said. We blame ourselves for everything that goes wrong in our children's lives. It's the price of loving them. The old man nodded approvingly. Now you're beginning to understand. Understand what? The nature of the journey you're on. It's not really about reaching the hospital, is it? It's about confronting the choices you made and the father you've been, the man you are. Mark felt a strange sense of recognition, as if the old man had articulated something he'd been feeling but couldn't express. Maybe. But I still need to get to Danny. Yes, the old man said. You do. The road began to level out slightly, suggesting they were finally approaching the summit. The fog started to thin, revealing glimpses of the valley below. Mark could make out lights scattered across the darkness. Towns, maybe, or individual houses tucked into the mountainside. How much further to where you're going? Mark asked. Not much further now, the old man replied. We're almost there." As they continued their descent on the other side of the pass, Mark began to feel a strange sense of déjà vu. The curves in the road, the placement of the guardrails, even the pattern of lights in the valley, it all felt familiar, as if he'd driven this exact route before. But that was impossible. He'd only driven this road once years ago with Danny and Carol. "Just ahead," the old man said, pointing to a scenic overlook area carved into the mountainside. "You can drop me there." Mark pulled into the turnout, a small paved area with a single picnic table and trash can. The fog was much thinner here, swirling around the car like smoke. The old man unbuckled his seatbelt and turned to face Mark. "Thank you for the ride," he said. "It's been enlightening." "Yeah, thanks." Mark kept the engine running, eager to get back on the road. But something held him back. Some instinct that this wasn't just a casual party. The old man opened the door and paused. "One piece of advice, if I may." "What?" "Sometimes the most important thing about a journey isn't reaching your destination. Sometimes it's understanding why you needed to make the journey in the first place." Before Mark could ask what that meant, the old man stepped out and closed the door. Mark watched him walk to the edge of the overlook and stand there, a dark figure against the swirling fog. There was something final about his posture, as if he were waiting for something. Or someone. Mark shook off the uncomfortable thought and pulled back onto the highway. In his rearview mirror, the old man disappeared into the fog and darkness. Good riddance. Now he could focus on what really mattered. Getting to the hospital, getting to Danny. The road continued its winding descent, and Mark pushed the speedometer back toward 75. The fog was lifting rapidly now, revealing the stark beauty of the Sierra Nevada slopes. He should be able to make good time on the straight stretches once he reached the valley floor. His phone buzzed. A text message. Mark glanced at the screen and saw it was from Carol. "Mark, please call me as soon as you get this. It's about Danny. It's important." A cold fist clenched around Mark's heart. Had something changed? Had Danny taken a turn for the worse while Mark was driving through the mountains? He tried calling her back, but the call wouldn't connect. The phone showed full signal strength, but something was preventing the call from going through. Mark pressed harder on the accelerator. Whatever Carol needed to tell him, it could wait until he reached the hospital. He'd been driving for hours, racing against time and his own fears. He wasn't going to let anything delay him now. The descent continued, curve after curve, and Mark began to recognize landmarks from his previous trip on this road. There was the overlook where he'd stopped to let Danny take pictures of the valley. There was the roadside diner where they'd eaten lunch, Danny insisting on ordering the largest burger on the menu. Happier times, simpler times, before divorce and distance and all the accumulated regrets that came with middle age. Mark rounded a sharp curve and saw lights ahead. Flashing lights. Red and blue strobing through the darkness like a broken carnival. Mark's heart lurched as he recognized the scene. Police cars, ambulances, a fire truck. The whole array of emergency vehicles that descended on highway accidents like mechanical vultures. Traffic was being diverted around the crash site. Mark slowed, following the line of cars creeping past the scene. He could see the wreckage now, illuminated by portable floodlights that turned everything harsh and surreal. A small silver car, completely demolished. It had left the roadway and slammed into the concrete barrier that separated the lanes. The front end was crushed beyond recognition. The roof peeled back like the lid of a sardine can. Mark had seen plenty of accident scenes in his 53 years, but something about this one made his blood run cold. The car looked familiar. As his rental crawled past the wreck, Mark leaned toward the passenger window for a better look. It was a Camry, just like the one he was driving. Silver, four-door, with Nevada rental plates. Even the damage pattern looked